First, just a very special thank you to all who have supported me since the beginning of the journey of just shining a light on difficult things, on hard answers. Thank you so much for doing that. This is for you. 10 years ago, when my daughter died in a car crash, I made myself a promise. I promised that I would do a couple of things very specifically. One is that I would, everything I did and talked about through what I've learned, I would honor my other 3 kids, and I really hope I've done that. Thanks in advance for joining us. I hope you enjoy this next conversation. I'm Matt Logan, the host of This Matters in Real Life. Oh hey, stay tuned at the end of this. I'll give you some more information.
Vaccine versus employment, who wins? This matters in real life, right, Mike?
Absolutely, it does.
Thanks for being here again, but you have the same shirt on.
Yes, I have a tendency to wear the same shirt for days on end.
I can get away with it because, you know, I just do a lot of them, so I wear the same thing all the time, Mike. But I'm not sure. Maybe we should get put you back in the green room and get a wardrobe change. Oh wait, we're here.
I think I am in the green room.
No, we're recording this all in one day, and then we're going to air them Monday through Friday as we can. So that's, but I'm just teasing you, obviously.
Well, and Craig also is going to be wearing the same thing for a full week.
He is, but he takes his pants off in between. I don't know if you caught that.
All right.
Because
that's why we have the cameras above and we don't have an overall, because he likes a little change in between episodes.
I missed that part. So
yeah. You're okay. Yeah.
Okay.
He'll just keep his boxers on.
Yeah.
Like, you ever seen those old news pictures? Like, they made fun of him for just wearing boxers and stuff.
Right.
Because they always had the top half. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that real, do you think, or did they just
I don't know,
it?
but I think we've crossed some pretty big lines here with this conversation. I think we should probably get back on topic.
Feeling a little uncomfortable?
Here. Yeah, I'm a little out of my comfort zone right now.
Well, let's talk about some of these things that really affect, there's headlines everywhere, Mike, for many COVID-19 vaccine opponents, no jab, no job. Florida, they talk about all kinds of different things, the laws that restrict workplace vaccine mandates, and all these, it's all over from state to state. Can you be fired for refusing to get vaccinated against COVID-19? Vaccine mandates may fuel rise in employment practice claims. I mean, the headlines are all over the place on this thing, and you have to dig a little bit deep. I did use some mainstream media sources on my research. I did use some others and read about it, and obviously I've been following a lot of this for a long time. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself again.
Again, my name is Mike Marti. I'm a Casson area resident. 4th generation Minnesotan, father of 4, small business owner, married to the love of my life, Nicole, who this subject will have a very close and personal touch to. For
full disclosure, I didn't know that when we did this. I mean, we talked about that off camera a few minutes ago, and I had no idea. So this is not a setup.
Yeah. Nope.
And for anybody that watches or listens, this is, I didn't know that, that it hits close to home. To me, this is a really ridiculous thing that we're talking about. It should have been squashed immediately by those who are supposed to represent us.
Right.
I know that a lot of Republicans, I looked through some different voting records about 5 or 6 months ago. They were trying to take, in our own state, they were trying to take the powers away from the governor and all those things. But obviously it didn't succeed for a long time.
Right.
For 14 months, I believe. Does that sound right?
That's about right, yeah.
Craig, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, did you hear about that same thing too with
Absolutely.
So how do we look at this, and all of a sudden the president is saying he's going to use the federal government, which is not supposed to be used in that way.
Right.
The federal government is supposed to protect the states, but leave them alone to do their thing.
Yep.
And he comes in and says, okay, OSHA, here's what you're going to do. 100 employees or more, you got to get vaccinated. And then they started to change that language too, and that they're going to ratchet that down to 50, and I don't think that ever went through. But
No.
the a state Supreme Court came out and said, I believe, hey, this doesn't fly. You can't do this. And the President of the United States, Joe Biden, again said, doesn't matter, we're doing it.
Right.
What in the world?
So
People are losing their jobs.
Right. People are losing their jobs. My wife is one of them, a 20-year RN at the clinic, at the big clinic in Rochester, I guess we'll call it that, because we're going to try to be somewhat civil here. But let me just start with this. First off, I owe my life to Mayo Clinic. Okay, I was born in 1975, and a lot of people don't know this, but I was born very premature, especially for 1975. I was 4.5 pounds when I was born. In 1975, if you were 4.5 pounds, the likelihood of you surviving anywhere in the country wasn't all that great. But because I lived in an area just minutes away from the greatest, most prestigious medical facility in the world, I'm here today. So I don't have anything but good things to say about Mayo Clinic over the years because of the millions of lives that they've saved through their direct action and through their research. I mean, they are a great facility. But where I disagree with them is how they've applied their exemption rules for the employees when it comes to the vaccine. And that's where my wife, who worked there for 20 years, and she's an exceptional nurse, okay, working on patients with cancer. Okay, so we're gonna now take people out of the field who were literally saving lives with cancer, with curing, or not curing, but treating cancer. We're gonna take those people out because of the potential that they could spread COVID with a survival rate that is unbelievably high compared to cancer.
Mike, they say the masks work at the Mayo Clinic.
Certain masks do, but
and that's like the president is quoting that.
Yeah. Okay.
If worn properly.
Yeah.
I work in construction. There's times that we have to wear masks.
Yeah.
Okay. That's for dust. That's for large particles. And you have to be fitted. It has to be the appropriate mask. These cloth masks don't do anything for that. But that's aside from this whole vaccine mandate thing. That's a whole nother issue. I mean,
but there's layers of it. In that the problem for me is they're not reasonable arguments. They say that this works, but yet they're going to fire somebody for not getting a vaccine.
Right. So if the masks work, then why do we need the vaccine?
It's a non-issue then.
Exactly. Right. So,
but go ahead.
so
Sorry, but I just want to. The problem for me is all those layers, right? That it's so hypocritical on those layers.
And then you have on top of that the fact that we're now going to delay treatment to people who desperately want it. I mean, I've never had cancer, but I can't imagine a worse phone call from a doctor than we're going to delay treatment when you have cancer.
I know people.
I can't even imagine that phone call.
I know people.
Because we don't have the staff, because we fired them because they wouldn't get the poke.
Exactly.
I know people that they've got that phone call. I don't know if you do or not, if you're just saying it, but I know people.
But I know what's happening.
They've literally said your cancer is not that bad, so we're going to delay by about 2 or 3 months. And it's like, what? Wait a minute. My cancer's not that bad?
Right.
And you're going to delay this? That happened in this city.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable.
I believe that it was said, and I'm going to bring the Mayo Clinic up again because a lot of people, a lot of businesses, people in general, a lot of politicians and all these different things, they are constantly bringing up the Mayo Clinic and that they're a leader and all these things. How did the Mayo Clinic become a leader? They became, so let me even back up further than that. My grandfather worked for, and I'll just say top brass, at the Mayo Clinic for like 40 years.
Yep.
And he would tell stories about all the innovations that took place. And how did innovations take place? They took risk on who? Patients.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they did those things, and they took the risk on the patient so that they could hopefully help that particular patient If they couldn't help that particular patient, what did we learn from that? Right? They used all kinds of different surgical methods. They used all kinds of different drugs that they had available at the time. They used all these things in their arsenal. That's how the Mayo Clinic became the Mayo Clinic.
They would take the patient that nobody else would take.
Exactly. For chickens.
With no hope or little hope.
The other clinics said they're not treatable. So the clinic would take that case on and find a way.
Right. At least to do the very best that they could for that patient.
Right.
And even yourself. They in order for you to survive in that time frame, they took risks to help other babies survive. And sometimes they didn't.
Right.
And they learned from it. And that's the whole idea, right? So they do these things to take the risks. And who takes the risks? The nurses. Mm-hmm. You know, they're exposed to all kinds of stuff. They rush in there. I've seen it happen. Yep. They rush in and do their thing, you know, all the doctors. But now, I don't know. It gets deep. Yeah. And it makes me angry. Can't imagine yourself.
It's not a happy time.
No. But then you see these headlines and, you know, they say vaccine opponents. I want to just say most people are saying that they're not opponents of vaccines in general. Right. They're opponents of mandates. They're opponents of the heavy hand of the government coming in and saying that this is a one size fits all. And, you know, that's it, period.
And that's my issue with this is that our administration has strong-armed every hospital and they're doing it by saying if you are receiving Medicare or Medicaid payments for your patients, which I don't know if there's any hospitals that don't, or there aren't very many. If you're taking their insurance, then you need to have the mandates. That's absolutely strong-arming all of these hospitals. So from that perspective, Mayo didn't have a choice in this, but the loophole in that was the exemptions for religious or medical reasons. And they just, you know, my wife is in the clinic too, and she had a lot of coworkers that are questioning the poke, and a very small percentage of them received their exemptions. And there's one that received her exemptions, and then Mayo came back and said, but now you're done. So
that's a good point, actually. Too, there's been people, and I didn't look this up, but there's people that I've talked to that have gotten the vaccine, and then they ended up losing their job anyway. So what's the contract here, right? Mm-hmm. You get you get the vaccine. They lose their job anyway because there's all kinds of let's be honest. You're bucking
the system, so
right, yeah. So they've lost their job anyway, or they've gotten sick from the vaccine and then they can't work, and so then that's a whole different mess that they're dealing with and all those types of things. So what's the contract that these businesses say? Okay, you get the vaccine, you're gonna be here for another 20 years. Are they doing that? I didn't find any.
No.
I've heard that all those exemptions that they've granted are still going to be reviewed on a somewhat continuous basis. Well, to me, that just sounds like a way where over time we're going to just start denying these a little bit at a time. It's a typical progressive move. It's just like the completely arbitrary 100-employee mandate with OSHA. Where'd that number come from?
Right.
They just pulled it out of the air, and it was because they knew that if they're going to make it for everybody, there would be a revolt. But if we just make it for the larger employees first, we can start there, and then we're going to work our way down to the smaller ones. That's how this always works.
Yeah. The bigger companies can absorb that employee loss that the smaller companies can't cover.
Yeah, that's true too. But at least there's not a mandate protest in Canada with a bunch of truckers. That's a good thing.
No,
I mean, that doesn't exist.
No, I think it's there. What is there? 200 of them, maybe.
I don't know.
20,000 or 200,000, something like that.
Yeah, there's you know, and that's the thing that is so ridiculous. They're saying that nobody is against the mandates and all this kind of stuff. And literally in Canada, where the lockdowns are really harsh, they literally put people in these hotels in in camps essentially for 2 weeks to quarantine them, and they don't let them out. And some of them haven't been fed and all kinds of these things. And, this isn't happening and going on in Canada. That's the problem for me right there, is that the suppression of information.
Right.
They're basically not allowing us to make a decision on the vaccine and all kinds of things. And when you talk about them sliding that religious exemption or whatever exemption that they want to label it, and they're going to progressively slide that out. And that's exactly why I made the decision to talk about certain things that I've talked about, saying that, hey, wait a minute, it's not just about a vaccine. What's next?
Right.
As soon as you allow that heavy hand to come in and smack it down on one thing, now we don't have freedom of religion. Now we don't have this. Now we don't have that. And because a mandate, the heavy hand of the government comes in with a mandate, it never stops at that one thing.
Right.
Not once in history.
Right. And now with the religious exemption and whether we're going to approve or disapprove them, we've basically made, at this point, in this case that we're talking about, we've made Mayo Clinic the one who holds the book of truth when it comes to what's religious, what's faith. Well, that's not where they belong. They belong in the medical field where they excel, and not in our areas of faith. That's left up to you, the individual, because I'm a Christian, but obviously there are other people, there's other faiths that don't believe the same things that I do, but they might have the same type of they just might not want the vaccine. Okay?
And they have the same
the same ability to object to it.
Right.
And that's what America is based on. It's based on the freedom of your religion and your ability to just worship as you please without some sort of parameters or guidelines that have to be followed around that. I mean, some of the questions they asked on that exemption form were just ridiculous. Like, I
heard that.
Like, how long have you held these beliefs? Are they deeply held beliefs? Well, who are you to decide that, and how do you measure that? There's no way to measure that. There's no...
In other words, what they're saying there, what I heard on that form essentially would be that they don't care. They're going to find a way to kick you out anyway.
They're going through the motions.
Because
the door's wide open because it's an unprovable.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way to prove whether it's deeply held or the other thing was, how long was it? How long have you believed these things?
Yeah.
Well, what difference does that make? I mean,
what about the born again Christian that a year ago was shooting up in the gutter, and now their whole
saved.
Life revolves around the Bible.
At the point they accept, they're saved.
Right.
That the timeline, it's not like, oh, well, I guess, you've said that you agree with these, but now there's a waiting period of, 10 years before you actually hold these beliefs. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't think heaven and hell have a calendar on entry. It's how you live your life. I find it interesting, the irony that the Mayo Clinic in St. Mary's without the Catholic nuns would not exist.
Absolutely.
Just straight up, they would not exist. They would not have started to where they are today. Yet now they're questioning people's religious beliefs. Whether they're legit or it's a reason to not get the jab, that's on the person. That's their own personal decisions. But just it shows me, and I wasn't a preemie, but with my medical work at Mayo, I should at least have a floor named after me at this point. But it's deafening how the business model of the Mayo Clinic has changed in the last 20 or 30 years. Patient first. Yeah. Nope, not anymore. It hasn't been that way in a long time.
Yeah.
I hear about it every day.
In this whole phrase that, we're in this together stuff is laughable.
Right. Yeah.
Like we're in this together as long as you do it our way.
Right.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Guess we have a light issue. That means our 20 minutes is up? No, I don't know.
Well, we're getting
It's like bar close. Usually lights come on when you gotta close.
Right?
You gotta go home.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think? Well, weigh in on at the
I
end
think
here.
the thing it comes down to is personal choice.
Yes.
And that's what America's always been founded on. It's the ability of the individual to be supreme. It's not, we're not the kind of country who does something necessarily for the greater good. We don't trample someone's rights for the greater good in this country. That's not how we operate.
The greater good is the person.
Right. So we need to get back to that principle. I think we've lost that in so many areas, and this is just a shining example of that.
Yeah. And it's come down so fast and so hard that most people, I shouldn't say most, a lot of people, millions of people are like, whoa, okay, it must be true in all these other things that have happened. And that's the problem for me, is like when you come in so hard and so fast and everybody has to do this, we have never been a one-size-fits-all country.
Right.
Ever.
So it makes us great.
Yes, exactly. You can do your thing. So we're going to do our thing. We'll see you next time.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this conversation that I just had. I was very honored to be a part of it, honored to be the host of This Matters in Real Life. I think it's extremely important to cover a lot of different things and topics and get people's opinions. When my daughter died in a car crash 10 years ago, I said that's what I would do. I would look at the answers, I would look at the truth, and I would make sure that they would intersect. They would not divorce each other. It's so often that we want answers that are not the truth. We want answers that are comfortable. We want answers that make us feel good. Well, there's a lot of things in life that is just, it's not the case. So who am I? Well, I am you. I'm no different than you are. I eat and sleep and, all the different things. Same thing that you do. I hurt. I feel joy. I've had a lot of experience, probably just like you. I work hard, probably just like you. One of the things that you can do to support us is go to shinybrandmerch.com, where you'll see things like the sweatshirt that I have on. I'm a full-time, a truck driver. What do I deliver? Well, I deliver trucks. It's a little bit different of a gig than a normal truck driver, yes, but I am what would be considered a commercial vehicle transport specialist. So about 5 to 6 days a week, I deliver trucks. I get into a truck, I go 2,000 miles, I deliver it to its new owner, I get on an airplane and I go find another one. Nothing real glamorous unless you make it that way. And I've decided that I would have a lot of conversations along the way, and some of those conversations I'll be able to share with you. Again, hey, thanks for your support. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time.